Alright, hi guys. Today I'm going to be talking about I'm just going to call it the Dragonsong Falconer. This build's broken. It's way too good. It does require quite the gear investment. The build fits all my criteria for a great build. It has over 100% move speed almost all the time. It kills Aberroth in under a minute. This one actually did 26 seconds. Can clear 500 corruption monolith very easily and quickly without dying. And yeah, that's my criteria for a good build. Probably one of the best Falconer builds out there all around. The dive bomb stuff, yeah, I know it can one-shot Aberroth or kill him in less than like 2 seconds or whatever, but I'm sure dive bomb is not that fun to play in monoliths. Trying to group up enemies to dive bomb them and stuff like that. This has no downtime. This has no downtime on the DPS. You just hold down right click. The bird is only there to reduce my cooldowns and give me mana and leech. Before playing this build, collect your Dragonsong. You want 6 or 7% the crit chance at the bottom, and you want the chance to cast Dragonfire like above 30. And then go slam it with the 10% crit chance. Go find you a good Morning Frost. I personally wouldn't play this build unless I had tier 7 movement speed slammed on the Morning Frost. You want 2 rings with minus throwing attack mana cost. And then I'll talk later about my choices for gear. But first we will go into the skills. So I'm just going to go right into the most important skills. I just want to reiterate, my bird isn't doing any damage at all. Probably the bow is doing like half of my damage, and the explosive trap and acid flask are doing the other half. I'll try to keep this short. There's like a billion different explosive traps, throwing acid flask builds out there, so go watch those if you want to know more detail. But something that none of those videos covered that this does is that when an explosive trap detonates and it hits at least one enemy, it gives you a chance to get dust shrouds. This node right here next to it actually increases how many dust shrouds you get. Even if you're just holding down right click and not letting them arm for the full duration, you'll still get more dust shrouds if you max this node out, which is pretty crazy. This node is what's making the build broken. So this node is really broken. This should be nerfed. This is what they should target next. They want to tune down this build. Acid Flask is great. It does a fair amount of damage actually. And it applies frailty for you. It applies slow for you. It applies like a ridiculous amount of armor shred. And otherwise costs 0 mana and just does pretty good damage actually. Half of my traps are going over to the next dummy. So you can double whatever this armor shred is. It's getting like to 120 right now, which is ridiculous. You don't need more than 120 armor shred. Called this armor shred graph. The values up and down are how much more damage the enemy's going to take. So at 100 armor shred stacks, the enemy's going to take 77% more physical damage and 54% more non-physical damage. So that's us. We don't do physical damage. I'm getting like 120 right now, right? Now, I saw this in another guide for this build, but he was putting armor shred on his gear and using up affixes to apply more armor shred. Say you just go crazy with it and you go from 120 armor shred stacks all the way to 400. Well, 400 gets you a damage boost of about 59%, and 120 gives you a damage boost of about 55.5%. So whatever I just said, I mean, it's like a 3% more damage for all that extra armor shred investment. It's just not worth it, guys. So just get to like anywhere between 80 and 120, 80 and 150, and be happy with that. So I thought that was interesting. What else? Crit chance. Let's talk about crit chance. Obviously you want everything you do to be critting, because when you crit, you have a chance to drop this Dragonfire off your bow. Like one explosive trap does like 20 hits by itself, so has no cooldown on the Dragonfire. All these different hits are proccing the Dragonfire like crazy. That's what makes the build cool. Anyway, here's what I got set up for my crit chance. With my gear, I need 196% increased crit chance. And I'm getting like 44% from my passives without even trying. How I get this? The tier 7 slam on the bow. This is the 7% crit chance for fire skills on the bow. This is the rogue body armor, gives you 3 base crit. This is the phantom grip ring, gives you 2 base crit. This is just the base crit of the ability. Every ability gets that. So that puts you at 27% base crit chance. And then we have crit vulnerability, which gives you a 20 crit for free if you can stack it up to 10 times, which we have no problem doing. So we get crit vulnerability. That's why we take 80 divided by our base crit chance, and that gives you this number right here. And that's how much increased crit chance you need, 196. So pretty easy to get. Crit chance on your character sheet, it's not factoring in the 7% crit chance with fire skills from the bow. We talked about explosive trap, acid flask. Falconry, yes, my bird is not doing any damage. I'm using it for this node. It gives you a 15% movement speed buff and a 15% attack speed buff. This node's the only reason we have this ability spec'd, actually, because it applies to everything your falcon does. So anytime your bird hits something, a rare enemy or boss, you get 1 mana per 40 total attributes. So you want to get to 120 or 160 total attributes as soon as you can. I'm currently at 120 and it feels fine, but sometimes I will run kind of low on mana. But if you get 160, you'll basically never run out of mana. Everything else in here is just reducing cooldown or making my falcon do more random hits so that it gives me more mana. Dive bomb. If you're playing a rogue, you should be getting Crimson Shrouds if you can. Crimson Shrouds reduce dot damage taken by up to 15%, which is basically like wearing an Oracle amulet. So if you're complaining about dots and you're playing a rogue and you're not taking Crimson Shrouds, I have a problem with you. Otherwise, on a single target, this is like stacking up to 10 times, so that's another 60% crit chance and some multiplier for you for free. Move speed for faster clearing. But the really broken one is, of course, it gives you mana, lots of mana back on boss hit, and it reduces the cooldown of your traversal skill every time you use Dive Bomb. Dive Bomb cooldown is recovered when you hit someone with a throwing attack. And then remember, you also reduce your Falcon skills from Explosive Trap here. So this combination is just way too strong. You're dive bombing like every 0.2 seconds or something, which just also makes your traversal skill almost have no cooldown. And then that's why we do a Smoke Bomb traversal skill, because Smoke Bomb gives us Silver Shroud every time we use it, which guarantees a dodge on our next hit, which basically just makes us unkillable. You're invulnerable, you get iframes while you're dashing, gives you some leech, cleanses your ailments as well every time you use it, so just very strong combination there. I think that's about it for the skills. So the gearing's very simple. Besides those key items I talked about in the beginning, for your prefixes, the priority goes like this. Crit multiplier is top priority. You put that on anywhere you can. I would say it's throwing attack speed is next, which can go on your rings and gloves. Dexterity is third highest priority. And then after dexterity would be crit chance. Your quiver, you get crit chance and dex. That's where you get your crit chance from. The thing about throwing attack speed is you may actually run out of mana if you're not careful, so I would replace this ring with a Osirian with tier 7 throwing mana cost stuff. You want this base type for your armor, for sure, base crit chance. And the helmet, I would actually go with the, I wouldn't go with the Falconry helm, I would go with the crit multiplier and fire resistance base type helmet. You can also look at Peak of the Mountain. I like having the leech. I don't want to turn my leech off. Take your cold damage, guys. This build, you need a lot more increased damage than you think. That's how come the Yukinui sphere is so strong. It gives you a crazy amount of increased cold damage, and most of my damage is cold because of the Morning Frost. This huge idol, get at least one of them with the 15%. The max traps doesn't matter, it's the throwing attack speeds you want, and there's only one good suffix. Actually there's two. There's Ellie Res and increased damage while wielding a bow. Throne Ambition, obviously, the build does fire and cold damage only, so this is a no-brainer. This one's a decent one to look out for. Crit multi-poison res. Otherwise, you got these large, up to 9% increased health. If we pull up the patch notes, for Explosive Trap they added 3 mana cost. The trap is, that definitely hurt. That hurt us for sure. They took away the infinite penetration scaling from Sky Signal, so This didn't matter for my version of the build. My bird is not doing any damage, so that doesn't do anything. Yes, we get a lot less smoke traps, but you actually still get a lot if you put 2 points in that node I was talking about. That increases the arming time. You still get up to 40, just enough to cap your glancing blow and be at like 80% dodge chance, so that's still way too strong. Okay, it's not going to load, but they made it to where you can only have 2 smoke bombs at a time. So this interaction where you're increasing the duration of your smoke bombs with dive bomb is not so broken anymore. In fact, you can probably take this point out. I'm not even sure it works, I'm gonna be honest. Passives, throwing attack speed. I'm not gonna put the points in the moving one because to do damage with this build you have to stand still and hold down right click, so it didn't really make sense. Max that out. But you do want the increased damage for movement speed. That one's really strong. Let's talk about marksman. I think every rogue build I play from now on is going to have all these points maxed. I think they're really strong. I see lots of people not using this and not really sure why. If you see 2% more damage per point, you take it. You take it, guys. It's really good. Otherwise, 10% crit vulnerability is plenty to cap up to 10 stacks. Blade Dancer, I'm always going to take this movement speed as well. Falconry, I see people not putting points here. I think it's very good, especially when you need the mana regen. This build needs the mana regen for sure. You get a lot of flat dodge from Dust Shrouds, so getting the percent dodge here, it makes it even better. I like this one a lot as well. As situations where Rahyeh, the boss Rahyeh, for example, has a lot of attacks where they're just coded to where you can't dodge them for some reason. So Silver Shrouds won't even dodge them. But if you have something like this, for example, that boosts your endurance threshold, and you only get hit every once in a while, and just make it to where you don't get one shot. Definitely get 60% endurance on this character as like one of your top priorities. Otherwise, there's some stuff here like you can scale your bird's damage with dexterity, which we are stacking with Morning Frost, but I didn't want my bird to do any damage, and just to see how strong it was without it. So I skipped out on all the bird stuff. Next choice is you can get throwing attack speed, but 2% per point isn't that crazy. But this one I see everyone sleeping on as well, which I find really interesting. The 25% increased area for area skills and minion. The Dragonfire has the area tag, and the Explosive Trap has the area tag, and the Acid Flask has the area tag, so like this Dragonfire cone is massive compared to what it looks like when you don't have this maxed out. So I value this really highly for mono clearing. So it's between this or like throwing attack speed, so or more dexterity. But I max this. I like it a lot. The glancing blow stuff, you don't need it because Explosive Trap gives you like up to 40 dust shrouds, so you skip out on that. Every Falconer should have these 3 maxed. Every Falconer should have this and 3 points here. These last nodes right here, pretty much every Falconer build should have these maxed out. I think that's it. And for anyone confused on this ring, it's just the 4 LP ring I dropped, and the Exalted ring I slammed on it was insane, but it was on a bad base. It was on like the minion base or whatever, so I just transferred it over to this ring that has 3 attributes on it. But yeah, I would replace this with an Osirian. Yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I think I'm gonna be done with Last Epoch for the cycle. Moving on to play other games like Deadlock. Maybe I'll take a look at the Tarkov wipe. I don't know. But I hope this build works out for you, and thanks for watching. See ya.